Well, good evening, and I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting for the town of Saugeen Shores and extend a welcome to everyone in the chambers this evening. Our first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility. If done declared, then we have no additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. So the first item for us then is delegations. And this evening we have the Saugeen Rail Trail Board member, Dave Cheer, and he's here to update us on the projects for 2017. Welcome, Dave.
Now you can hear me? Okay. Good evening. Give us the first part. The early Saugeen Rail Trail volunteers concentrated their efforts on building and maintaining a biking trail on the old railway bed. Today's efforts have expanded that original mandate to include storyboard points of interest, memorial gardens, head of trail reproduction buildings, water stations, tree plantings, butterfly gardens, and more. This work could not have been accomplished without thousands of volunteer hours, generous donations from individual people and local businesses, plus partnerships with groups such as the Rotary Clubs, Home Hardwares, Saw Green, and the Municipal Council of Saugeen Shores. I'm here tonight to update Council on 2017's accomplishments and to give you a look into what next year is the planned activities for next year. Number one, we completed erection of a wall mural on the Southampton Market depicting the train leaving the interior of the building. That was exactly what happened years ago when the train tracks ran right through the old furniture factory. In partnership with Saw Green, we planted many more trees along the trail, including a selection of 12 blaze orange maples that add to the beauty of the fall colors. We also continue to plant donated memorial trees at the head of trail site in Southampton. In partnership with the Rotary Club, the head of the trail replica train station in Port Elgin was repainted. We graded, rolled, and resurfaced many kilometers of trail bed. Completed the construction of the new Harbor of Refuge gazebo at the Memorial Gardens in Southampton. This was a Canada 150 project valued at $50,000 that now offers a comfortable, relaxed rest and sitting area when out hiking. When I talk about some storyboards a little later on, they're still to go up there. This year we had to rent a brush cutter and a tractor to complete a full-length trail cutting of weed growth. We hired a professional person to update and maintain the Saugeen Rail Trail website. Next year, this is our agenda. With the assistance of the high school design and fabrication class, we will install some street art bike racks at various locations along the trail, being completed as we speak. We are to complete and install the storyboards at the Memorial Gardens that depict the rail and water history of Southampton. Work is necessary on the trail entrance at Concession 6. That's the area north of the parking lot, across the road from the parking lot, to better separate the dual trail portion of the trail, update signage, and improve the entrance barriers. To improve safety, we will renew the signage for the trail road crossings. We will begin replacing the crossing gates with proper bollards. Resurfacing another section of trail is on our agenda. That's a yearly event, and it's usually 1, 2, or 3 sections. Continue to identify good connector links and push to make them more user-friendly. This is something we don't control, but we have a vested interest in it, and we get a lot of comments from people. How can you connect this part of the trail to that part of the trail? And that's no different with all the trails in town. Every year we go through thousands of trail maps. Next year we are slated for a reprinting and updating of these trail guides. We are still pushing to upgrade the safety of the trail and the road crossing at Highbury Farms. To that end, we have had Amanda Fries from your staff give us a briefing and some future insightful ideas. Plus, a couple of us have set up a meeting with our MPP next month. We share a sour note with you as a municipality, vandalism. I'm not talking great big dollar vandalism, but I'm talking petty vandalism. We experienced more vandalism this year than is the norm, and damage has occurred at many different locations. This is people uprooting signs, new like little fix-it setups that you have. Somebody smashed one of them. We have two of them that you, the municipality, gave us. Somebody smashed part of one and took some of the equipment. We would gladly play a role in a community education program if one is set up. As you know, we had a healthy bank balance entering 2017. This year we will have spent between $36,000 and $39,000 on rail trail projects. Our major 25th Jubilee and Canada 150 projects are close to completion. They're bought and paid for pretty well, leaving us a projected bank balance at the end of the year of, I've said 6 to 8, and I think they're revising that to maybe 6 to 4 to 6. Each year we have appreciated municipal support of $15,000. We also receive support from Community Services Department, and our trail manager wished me to thank Frank Burrows in particular for all his great cooperation. The Saugeen Rail Trail volunteers, like you as a municipality, work hard to enhance the quality of life for our permanent residents and visiting tourists. Thankfully, we have all been successful. Thank you for your continued support of our project.
Thank you, Dave. I just wonder if you have any other members of the Rail Trail Committee with you. You can certainly introduce them.
Do you have any other members?
Any other members of the committee with you?
Yeah, I do have a couple. They came to see if I'd make too many mistakes. They'd fire me.
Well, that's good. That's always good.
Yes, I do have a couple that come to listen. Do you want them to stand? And
No, if just introduce them so we all know who our volunteers are.
Yeah. I've got to mention your names and such. Larry and Kathy, finances, and
well, that's pretty important to have the finance person overlooking. Yeah. Any questions from committee? Councillor Mike Myatt.
More of a comment, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Dave and as co-chair and all the members of the Saugeen Rail Trail Committee for their continuing hard work. Dave, and recent meeting, Gabrielle spoke back in August, I think. She talked about a $3 million contribution from Saugeen Rail Trail Association over the last 26 years in memberships and grants and volunteer labor. And so I certainly will be supporting the $15,000 contribution again this year budget. For one, you people do a whole lot of great work for our community for trails, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple of council members, and they're super duper people to help us, let me tell you. Yeah, we really appreciate them.
Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My request would be through you to Jane, our Director of Community Services, and that is to the paragraph that speaks about the vandalism in the community, possible community education program. So the $15,000 per year, I would like to know if staff can review that amount and add to it what a community education outreach program related to vandalism or how to prevent it or how to assist with the Rail Trail Association so it doesn't happen as much in the future. I would like to know if we can see that at the budget time process. Thank you.
Sure, I would suggest that you reach out to our Saugeen Shores Police Service. I know they've done a great deal of work in the past about vandalism and some education, and perhaps you can take it to the board. Sure. Councillor Dave might.
Being a part of it.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. With regards to the financial support that the Saugeen Rail Trail Association receives from the town, the $15,000 is certainly what you received last year, but it wasn't always the case. It was actually $7,500 just a couple of years ago when the Saugeen Rail Trail asked for and was granted a 100% increase to make it $15,000, to which it had previously been. Okay. Just let me finish.
Yeah, sorry.
With that, normally most of the organizations that are funded directly through the town submit a audited or at least a comprehensive financial report, a statement of your expenditures. Would it be possible for the Saugeen Rail Trail to submit that prior to budget time so that we could have a look at it?
Part of our agreement is that the town, I'm assuming Jane, receives our budget for each year, and she will be receiving that in approximately 2 weeks.
Okay, then the question for Jane is...
because the money comes through community services.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jane, could you put Dave mentioned that he receives, the committee receives additional support from community services. Would you be able to put a dollar figure on what that additional support is from community service through the portion of a year? And also, would you be able to share that financial report with us when it becomes available?
I can certainly share the financial report from the Rail Trail Association when I get it, include it with my budget. Community Services provides many groups and organizations in-kind work over the years. Rail Trail is only one of many. It would be difficult for us to provide a dollar figure to that over all of the groups that we provide that to. I can give you a ballpark idea and can present that as part of budget, but realize that it's not something.
Okay. You don't account for it every hour. Yeah, understood.
I would
Thank you.
comment on what David said. I've been on the rail trail for, I don't know, 16, 17 years, something like that. We received $15,000 when I first became a member of the rail trail, and we received $15,000. I'm going to get my times a bit wrong here, but approximately. Up till about 6 years ago, times got tough with council. There was cutbacks. We were cut back to $7,500. That lasted for about 3 years, and then went back up to $15,000. So the standard has been, long before I ever come on, $15,000.
Yeah, okay.
Can I just, I was also involved with the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee during that time, and certainly financial implications were one reason for that, but other reasons were that it was widely thought that much of the work of restoring the trail to its state was winding down, and that the full budget was not necessary, so it was a bit of both.
Thanks very much. I think we've had lots of discussion. Thanks very much, Dave, and thanks to the volunteers for what you do for us. So the next item on the agenda then is a general government staff report, and excuse me, it has to do with the sale of land, Street B on Block 25 of Plan 3M 184 Sandy Acres Road. And our clerk, Linda White, will present the report.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The town of Saugeen Shores owns a vacant parcel of land on Sandy Acres Road, located between 263 and 275 Sandy Acres Road. The property is 20 meters in width, 41 meters in depth, which is the size of a typical residential lot in this neighborhood. The property is zoned residential and is serviced with municipal water and sewer. Since the property is a former road allowance that is no longer required for municipal purposes, public notice has been given of council's intention to pass bylaw to stop up, close, and sell the subject lands. No comments were received from the public notice process. Therefore, it is recommended that the necessary bylaw be passed to facilitate the closure of the subject lands. In addition to closing the road allowance, this report is also recommending proceeding with selling the property through a public tender process. The tender process will include a formal tender document to be completed and submitted in a sealed envelope to the town, accompanying with a deposit of at least 20% of the tender amount. The notice of sale and tendering process will be advertised in newspapers, websites, and at the site of the property. The notices will also be sent to interested parties, including local developers and home builders. The tender will be open for a 4-week duration. A condition of sale will include a provision that the purchaser commence construction within 1 year of purchasing the lot. If construction does not commence, the contract will be void and the property will be retendered. The minimum bid for the tender will be no less than $95,000. The tenders will be reviewed and evaluated based on the price. Revenue from the sale of the land will be transferred to the sale of the surplus lands reserved for future use by the municipality.
Thank you, Linda. Then the recommendation is that Council pass the necessary bylaw to stop up and close Street B, Block 25 on Plan 3M-184, that the subject lands be sold through a public tender process. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the clerk. I just was wondering, why did we choose the public tender process rather than going through real estate? Is there a particular advantage to the municipality in doing that, or what is the reasoning?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the reasoning for this parcel of land, it's a vacant parcel of land. There's absolutely nothing on it. It's fully serviced, so it basically sells itself. We basically sell the real estate, or save the real estate commission.
Councillor Minaj.
How to say this eloquently? I think we should place this lot under site plan control so that we don't get ourselves a headache, because the neighboring properties are of a certain style, and we've already been through this. That we are well aware of an OMB hearing that's in place, and similarly this could happen in this neck of the woods here. So, is there any way we could put some controls on what happens after we sell the lot?
I suppose controls can be put on. We would need some direction from council what exactly that you were looking for. So right now it is zoned residential, so therefore a property that meets that zoning, any development that meets the setbacks, the heights, it would be permitted. So if you want anything additional to that, I guess we're open to suggestions.
To do that, I think you need to change that zoning to go through that process. And you know, I think the zoning bylaw is meant to be fair to everyone, and I think that's you go down a slippery slope when you start to say we're going to make a special zone at this lot and that lot and this lot, because you know you end up with a dizzying array of different requirements. And I think our zoning bylaw now for R1 is up to like R185, so we have 81 different. So this, you know, I would be.
Can I just reply to that?
All right, briefly.
So just quickly then. Albeit it's R1, it can be R2 as soon as a developer wants it to be R2. That's not true. I've witnessed it. It's happened here in this community already. And if we don't agree with it becoming R2, it goes to the OMB, and the OMB might rule that it becomes R2. This
is R1 now. To change it to R2, you need to go through that same process, Neil. You need an application, and you need to amend the zoning bylaw. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be R2.
Doesn't necessarily mean, but it doesn't protect it against.
No, and we're not really. No.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Vice Deputy. Okay. So, any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So the next item is an Environmental Services and Transportation Staff Report, and it has to do with Aqua contract renewal, and our Director of Public Works, Amanda, will present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. Currently, the town has a service agreement with the Ontario Clean Water Agency for the management, operation, and maintenance of the Southampton Water Treatment Plant, the wastewater plant, and the Port Elgin wastewater plant, as well as the Saugeen Shores Water Distribution System. This agreement is set to expire on December 2019, which means that if we wish to do anything with the contract that does not automatically renew for 5 years, we need to write to Aqua before the end of December 2017. In order to make that decision, I met with our manager of engineering services, and we've discussed how Aqua has improved over the last few months. They have a new manager in place, and he seems to have the respect of the operators and is doing a good job and is giving us the reports in a timely manner. However, we have not heard back from the MOECC about the inspector and the report on their inspection from 2016, which had some issues about documentation. So with that, we wish to take more time to decide before we automatically renew the contract. We're not at the position where we're so dissatisfied that we want to give them warning of termination, but we're not comfortable enough yet that we want to automatically renew. So what we would like is your blessing to go back to Aqua and ask for a 1-year extension so that by this time next year we'll be able to say yes or no to the next 5 years with Aqua.
Thank you, Amanda. And the recommendation is that the Town of Saugeen Shores notifies the Ontario Clean Water Agency that the town does not wish to automatically extend the existing service agreements that expires December 2018 for a 5-year term, but instead negotiate a 1-year extension to December 2019. Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I support the recommendation. I only just would like to ask the Director of Public Works for clarity to the public and for Council that is this at all reflective in any way of a lack of confidence by staff in the operator's ability to safely provide drinking water to the community?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. And when we see service companies change, a lot of times the operators stay. This is specifically about a new manager not being there long enough to be able to give them a fair evaluation. We're quite happy with the way the operators are working. The operator that had the licensor issue, that's been corrected. Everybody there is fully licensed and working quite confidently on our water system.
Any further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Oh, the next item on our agenda is the Community Services Parks and Recreation staff report, and it has to do with the stand-up paddleboard rental business, and our Director, Jane, will present.
Thank you. This evening I present to you the renewal for the stand-up paddleboard at the Port Elgin Main Beach. This service has been offered since 2014. To date, staff have not received any complaints in regards to this business being on the Port Elgin Main Beach, and it certainly has added many amenities for patrons to enjoy. The season commences at the first week of June and concludes Monday after Labor Day weekend and is operated dependent on the weather. The lease revenue proposed is $600 for 2018 and again $700 for 2019.
Thank you, Jane. And the recommendation is the Council supports the approval of a stand-up paddleboard rental business at the Port Elgin Main Beach for the 2018-2019 seasons. Questions, comments? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can appreciate the service that is provided and how it fits in the beach setting. However, the increase of $100 per year is something that is concerning to me. Here we have a world-class attraction, Lake Ontario. We're contemplating investing an awful lot of money down there, and I think we're selling short the value of our asset. And I think there are a lot of businesses in Port Elgin and Southampton and surrounding areas that would be very grateful for a $600 a year charge to run a business, and even if it is only a seasonal business, this amount is not even the equivalent to a food truck license. It's certainly not equivalent to the rent that some of the other facilities pay at the beach. And I just think that, we have to be creatively thinking about how we're going to fund all of the improvements that we're talking about, particularly for the Port Elgin Main Beach area. And here we are planning activities and planning spending that will improve, hopefully, the draw of the attraction, and then we're giving away the real estate. And I just don't think that that's the best use of municipal land. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Byatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be supporting this recommendation. I like the clause in here about, in addition to providing center paddleboards, Ms. Taylor is continuing to expand her business office at Saugeen Shores with the soup boutique and the baby boutique. So it's bringing two businesses. I see it more than the $600. I see it as an attraction for our waterfront. One more reason, one more excuse, reason, good reason for people to visit, play, visit Saugeen Shores as a tourist attraction. I think it's great for our waterfront. It's a healthy activity. It's something that families can come down and give it a try, and it's a very healthy thing to do. I just think it's a win-win. And is $600 a lot of money? No, probably not. Yeah, but I just think the benefits this operator provides to our community is something that is very good for Saugeen Shores, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments? All in favor of it? Opposed? That's carries. Excuse me. Well, the next item on the agenda is a staff report, and it has a Community Services Parks and Recreation staff report for pre-budget approval for the rehabilitation of Jubilee Park Ball Diamond. And again, I think our director, Jane, will present Community Services.
Thank you. Through pre-consultation with our key user groups for our Ball Diamond, staff's looking this evening for pre-budget approval to rehabilitate Jubilee Back Diamond. User groups and staff have met with a number of the groups, and certainly this has been an indication that this would effectively help with the immediate pressures felt by the current ball groups with finding diamond space. For the most part, they are in agreement with moving forward. However, as my report indicates, Minor Ball certainly likes the idea and notion, but still would like us to consider Beaner for future possibilities. Budget deliberations this year will certainly be discussed a 5-year vision for future ball usage within Saugeen Shores. So this evening we're looking at pre-budget approval to get quotes prepared to commence the project when the weather cooperates. Approval of $45,000 with 90% being financed through the Development Charges Reserve Fund.
Thank you, Jane. Then the recommendation is that Council authorize pre-budget approval for the rehabilitation of Jubilee Park Back Ball Diamond in Southampton at a cost of $45,000, with 90% to be financed through the Development Charges Reserve Fund and 10% from the Park Reserve Fund. Comments, questions? Councillor Minaj.
I just want to check, Mr. Mayor, thank you, with Director of Community Services. I may put you on this hot seat here. Men use the front diamond and they can hit the ball 300 and change over the fence. Are they going to plant a ball in the back of a child's head if we put children on the back diamond, or are they far enough apart? They don't ever play at the same time. Okay.
Men's A and B is not scheduled for Jubilee Diamond. They don't play on that.
What, men's A and B? No, but I was there with my son's team, and Andy Mitchell can crush it over top of that fence, and he's in C division, so they play on that diamond. So which is the answer? Yes, they can hit the back of a child's head, or they cannot.
Well, let's listen to the director.
If I can add to it, ladies can also hit the ball quite far too. But
not 300, but that's
what we are proposing with this is that this also includes fencing along the back diamond, which will stop those balls from entering each diamond.
I'm having a hard time with this, Mr. Mayor. That I don't agree with. But let me ask something else then. I think the idea is great, and I just wanted to be sure from safety. And the second thing I would like to see, though, is that Minor Ball, if they're going to be the prime recipient of this expansion change, I'd like to see them talk about providing 10% funding towards the project. It's a common occurrence that people who do good work and are organized in the community don't just come and ask for change and expansion. They usually come with change in hand and say, here's some money towards the project. And I think that we should be not demanding it, but they should be thinking that that should be the right thing to do. And I would like to see them. I'll support the motion, but I would like to see the change that says 10%.
I think, did you comment, Councillor Dave Mayette? And then
Thank you.
Anybody over here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Jane, not being totally familiar with the area, would you say that this rehabilitation is almost a greenfield project? Is it gone that far that this diamond has completely grown over, or like we're starting from fresh with this, or is it just a matter of tilling up the old gravel and?
For the most part, yes. There are some remnants from when the diamond was used close to 25 years ago, but for the most part, it is rehabilitating the infield and the outfield, so it is.
So it's been a quarter century since this diamond's been used?
Early 90s is my understanding.
Vice Step Mayor Huber.
Thank you. I don't disagree with the idea behind the motion. However, I did just want to mention that there's a reference in the report to, there's a line that says, these discussions still need to be reviewed by the Recreation and Active Transportation Advisory Committee. This particular report we have has not been at the Recreation and Active Transportation Committee yet. That's unfortunate, because it would have been nice to have had the chance to have seen it there first. It just seems like we're rushing to spend money when we haven't yet seen the full slate that's in the envelope that's called Budget 2018. I also think that, it appears as though it's sort of free money, because it's from the Parks Reserve and from development charges, the development charges account. I asked today about the values in the reserve, and I think some of you read the comment from the CAO about how the reserve that we're saying we're taking money from is actually in a negative position. So, I realize 10% is not a whole lot of money, but still, we're not really taking money from a reserve. We're sort of really assuming debt, albeit for a small amount, because the reserve fund appears to be in a negative position. On the other side, the amount coming from development charges, we spent a lot of time in the couple of episodes of development charges reviews and setting up the lists for what kinds of things fit into the collection of those funds. And the CAO was kind enough to print me off a copy from the last review with all of the categories and items that were in the outdoor recreation list, which were the items that we talked about that were things that we felt would be appropriate to have development charges cover over a period of I think it goes up to 2025. Jubilee Park baseball diamond repairs is not on this list. Now, I realize we can move money around in the development charges, but again, the comment that came back was we have about $3.4 million sitting in the development charges fund, and about 3% of that is for recreational purposes. Well, you do the math on that, it's about $102,000. And here we're looking at about $40,000 to come out for this. That's 40% of what's sitting there. And there were a number of other projects on here that were talked about in great detail and kept on the list for good reasons. So I completely agree that this is a nice Band-Aid solution that is valuable, and there's a facility there, and there's electricity and lights, and there's a bathroom there, and there's other amenities for kids, and there's some parking nearby. All of that is good about this, but it just seems like we're spending money that we either don't have in the reserve fund or that we really had thought we were collecting for something else. So I'm not particularly comfortable with the pre-budget approval thing. I think we should have a chance to see the full slate of what we're talking about for recreation spending in 2018 ahead of passing something tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back on July 10th, Andy Dunlop from Minor Ball and a representative from Men's Slow Pitch both came to council, and they specifically at the podium asked for council support to at least go out and try and find some pricing for adding 1 or 2 ball diamonds at Beaner Field. Whether or not it's the right location to invest in 1 or 2 more fields, that remains to be seen and discussed at this council level, but you know, in good faith, I know in the motion that came out, it said just for staff to go back and take a look at pricing for alternate locations. I do not specifically Beaner. I specifically remember that evening talking about you know, having staff obtain some pricing to take a look at putting 1 or 2 fields in a Beaner, and so I'm a little disappointed with the recommendation that we're just talking about Jubilee Park. I won't be supporting the recommendation. I put a lot of thought into this, into it, and I have prepared a second recommendation that I'd like to present, if depending whether or not this is approved. And basically, the recommendation talks about directing staff to obtain pricing for rectifying Jubilee Park, come back to the December 5th budget meeting, and at that point, and also obtain pricing for Beaner. I think that's what I heard from groups. I was hoping that this recommendation might have included some pricing. So the recommendation I will be presenting, if this is defeated this evening, is talking about allowing staff to proceed with pricing for rectifying Jubilee, but also getting price for the second field. So I'm of the opinion that we should not be approving this recommendation. But more so, let's discuss it as our Vice Deputy Mayor has suggested, and I agree with her, is we should be talking about this item at the budget level on December 5th. So I won't be supporting the recommendation, but I do understand there's a bit of a diamond crunch right now. We need to do something, and let's give staff approval to go ahead and get the pricing released so we can discuss it December 5th. So that would be my motion if this is defeated.
Councillor Rich.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. My question's for the head of Jane, if we wait and do this at budget time, will it be able to be completed?
Can't predict on the weather, but it'll certainly be our goal to get it done as quickly as possible. We are certainly hearing it's going to be a tough winter as soon as the weather clears.
Right. I guess my point is that, like, we're getting this now. We need, so obviously the feeling is we need to do this right now, not in 6 weeks.
There's certainly components of this project we can start now. There's a lot of trimming that needs to be done. There's some fencing that needs to be done. Depending on when the winter starts and when approved, we certainly start looking at the infield and outfield possible.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm not wholly convinced by this one yet. I think $45,000 is not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, it's a fair bit of money. And we're talking about putting it into a ball diamond which will not serve all the users. I mean, it'll only serve Rookie and Mosquito and the ladies, which is interesting. That comment earlier, the ladies, I mean, you were saying the ladies can hit the ball a long way. I've seen it, it's true. But it only serves Rookie and Mosquito minor ball players, but ladies can play there too, which seems a little incongruous to me, because I think probably adult women can probably hit the ball further than most rookies and Mosquitoes. So I don't know, but I guess what I'm getting at though is that I'd like to see us, in an ideal world, we would invest lots of money, like $45,000, in ball complexes that serve all the users, that could serve all the users, which was something that was a recommendation we had in the rec master plan, that we need more ball diamonds to serve all the users. And I haven't seen those options yet, and there are other options we could consider, like Beaner, which was suggested. And so I'd still like to see us, get some more information on the options at Beaner Field so that we can decide whether or not this is the right way to spend an awful lot of money, or whether we should keep our powder dry and not use 40% of the rec money in the DCs. That's a big hit to the DC chart, to the DC fund, which we could use for other similar facilities, but which may serve more of our users. And so I just feel like the reason why I can't say that I'm ready to support it today, although it doesn't necessarily mean I won't ever be ready to support it, is that I just don't feel like I have enough information on what the alternatives are, like Beaner Field, just so that I can categorically rule it out. So I would like to see us defer. I would like to see us defer it to the budget, And perhaps, as Councillor Mike Myatt has suggested, give staff direction to go out and get your pricing from bidders on this project, so you can come back to us with a number, with an actual number as to what this might cost, and to look at to give us at least a ballpark, pardon the pun, on what Beaner Field might look like. At least a number, give us some sense. I mean, if it's, I don't know anything about building ball diamonds, obviously, so I can't even put it in an order of magnitude as to what that might cost, you know. So if it's crazy expensive, then obviously that'll take it right off the map, but I don't even know. And I'd like to have something presented here that we could discuss, so we could say, is that the right way to go? Or is that totally out to lunch, and maybe we should narrow it down and do this Jubilee Park thing? So I'm not prepared to support it tonight, but I'm not also keen on an outright rejection of the idea, because I don't absolutely oppose the idea. I just don't know yet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Minaj.
Thank you for the second chance, Mr. Mayor. I just feel like Luke is correct in that, and I'm sure Jane will attest to that. We start talking about development of 2 brand new diamonds, we're going to be pushing those numbers north of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so this is not, it's not something, this is a very good plan by staff to give us that stopgap measure to relieve the pressure. The pressure was at the podium, and they said we need some help. They started to suggest that it be 2 new ball diamonds, and we may have caught on to that, and we may want that, or we may want to help them want that. But I think that $45,000 is a drop in the bucket, and even though it sounds like a lot of money, I don't think it is in the big scheme of building new ball diamonds. So I would like to support this motion, get Jane and her staff a chance to get this diamond rehabilitated in time. But I do have a motion to revise the financing of the $45,000 to include a request of the Ball Association or associations with brackets S to come up with a 10% amount to help that out.
And we'll go to Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lots of good discussion on this. I particularly like what Councillor Minaj just said. I totally agree with that. I've been telling Council for the last 3 years that we have a unique situation in this town where our numbers have grown to such that most people do not realize the number of young people we have involved in sports throughout this town. As I said, last year, 500 kids in kindergarten. We haven't had 500 kids in kindergarten in this town in years. And it's the same again this year. Those numbers are increasing. So staff has put together a plan that's, as Councilor Minaj says, is a stopgap method. It's something to alleviate the pressure, and with a little constructive scheduling, using both Port Elgin and Southampton Diamonds, I believe we can take the pressure off for now until we come forward with the plan of what we're going to do with our diamonds. Who knows what it is, but we have to be able to take the pressure off now, and I believe this is a good plan, so I will be supporting it.
Yeah, first of all, I want to go back to say this, this is really what we asked staff to do. And you come up with a report tonight, and thank you for that, Jane. I know you've met with the groups and come up with an idea. There was some urgency at those meetings to come up with something, and we directed staff to come back with something. That's fine. But I hear a whole range of different opinions around here about, so I suspect it's going to fail. Maybe would I make a suggestion that we defer it for a couple of months so you come back with some other options, Jane, and prices? How does that sit with committee? Or do you want to vote on the recommendation now, up or down? Go ahead and read it. We'll see, Mike. Let's try to find a way to move this forward here.
Well, so what I was suggesting is doing some of the same thing. They said that council authorized staff to proceed with obtained pricing for the retrofitting of Jubilee Ball Diamond number 2 backfield, with results to be presented at the December 5th budget meeting for council's consideration. Further, that staff also prepare pricing for the installation of 1 additional lighted ball diamond for Beaner Ball Complex, with costing to be presented at the December 5th budget meeting. So basically it allows staff to go ahead and get pricing for projects and discuss it at a budget meeting.
I think that's really, like, I don't think we're going to settle this. Doesn't look like we're going to really settle this tonight. I think that's a good option. Just give it to us, and we'll give it to Jane and say, defer this motion and come back with that for December 5th, you're suggesting? As soon as you...
Put this motion on the floor, but if...
Well, okay. Okay, then we'll read... Okay, then have it here. Bring it here. So this is an amendment to the recommendation. I'll read the recommendation, then I'll read the amendment, and we'll deal with the amendment. The council authorized pre-budget approval for the rehabilitation of Jubilee Park back ball diamond in Southampton at a cost of $45,000, with 90% to be financed through the Development Charges Reserve Fund and 10% from the Parks Reserve Fund. Now there's an amendment to this recommendation that's been moved by Councillor Minaj and seconded by Councillor Grace to revise the staff report to add a requirement for the ball associations to add 10% of the cost for Jubilee Park diamond redevelopment. Okay. Any questions on this? Is everybody clear on what we're going to be doing here? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like or welcome a comment from the Director of Community Services about, I have no idea if that's a realistic request for the ball associations. Is that something that would be difficult for them to do, or are we being unrealistically demanding?
My question was going to be if that was total, 10% combined for all three, or 10% for each? All three groups benefit.
It's a clarification about the funding. We don't need more. Okay. So can you comment on that then, Jen?
I can't predict what they'll say, but I can certainly approach them.
So then, any further questions on this? All in favor? Opposed? That's defeated. So we'll go back to the main recommendation then. Any? All in favor of the main recommendation? Opposed? That's defeated. Bring that up here, Mike. We'll get this done. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make two comments. One is that there has been some reference about the December budget. The December budget meeting is the beginning of the budget process. The approval of the budget comes sometime in 2018. So please keep that in mind when you're asking about information. And I would also remind Council that our Recreation Master Plan, which is the document that we spent a lot of money and effort and approval from Council, does give us direction towards ball diamonds and all of our other sport fields. And the recommendation specific to this is that the town creates a sports field complex and provide 2 lit diamonds over the next 5 years, alleviate current pressures. So the staff's perspective is following the master plan, taking the long-term approach. We've gone through a highly consultative, highly analytical view. The recommendation tonight was, as described, as a temporary, although good investment, because the facility will be there and will be used for a long time. It's not the end goal. The end goal is adhering to the master plan, moving our inventory along with the recommendations of the master plan.
Thank you. So then we have another motion to deal with this particular issue, and it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt and seconded by the Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that Council authorize staff to proceed with obtaining pricing for retrofitting of Jubilee Ball Diamond number 2 backfield, with the results to be presented at the December 5th budget meeting for Council's consideration, and further that staff also prepare pricing for the installation of 1 additional lighted ball diamond for Beaner Ball Complex, with costing to be presented at the December 5th budget meeting. So I think we've had lots of discussion on this. We're ready for the question. All in favor of this? Oh, just hang on. All in favor again? Just hang on. One. Okay, opposed? That carries. So, the next item on the agenda then is, well, there's, I guess, 6 items there for committee of the whole information. If you have any questions on any of them, Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first is just a comment arising from the minutes of the Heritage Committee. And I just would like to thank and congratulate the Heritage Committee, and particularly Bill Streeter, for the work on the commemorative banners. They're very moving and effective, and I think just a wonderful addition to our main streets. I also had a question for the Director of Public Works about the bridge inspections report.
I think we should congratulate Public Works for getting the banners all up nicely too. They look fabulous. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Just as a further comment, the family of one of the soldiers, Dr. Carson, who used to live in the house that was the Mercer House, and most recently was the Peapod. The family, a nephew and a great nephew, are coming from Calgary for Remembrance Day in Southampton. So there's something, sort of an added thing to the ceremony in Southampton. I know that Port Elgin is planning something a little bit extra too, because there are family members planning to participate, that the banner is reflective of their family's ancestry.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Madison.
Just as an aside to that, I'd just like to give council notice that they will be receiving an invitation to attend the Saugeen District Secondary School Remembrance Day Assembly, which will be held on Friday, the 10th, and notice will be coming out, but you will all be invited to that.
Thank you, Don. Councillor Mike Myatt.
I just had a question for you to the Director of Community Service from the Waterfront Committee minutes. It's about the Beach Ambassador Program. I just wonder if our Director could just quickly explain what that program might entail.
Staff are looking at a number of options in response to the presentation for the lifeguards on the beach, and are looking at, as I said, a couple of options, and we'll be bringing a report to council at our next council meeting for discussion.
Vice Deputy Huber.
In a couple of the reports, there's mention of the 40th anniversary party at the Coliseum. Just a comment that there was a podcast done on Friday. Hardy Henry and Rob Johnson Butch were involved, and Councillor Matheson participated too. But that event on Saturday, November the 4th, will be ahead of our next council meeting, and it's really, there's a lot of buzz. So, certainly there'll be lots of interesting people and things going on in the Coliseum. And Councillor Matheson also talked about being a roller fuzz, and there seems to be some momentum starting to have a roller skating party next summer, and to have him come back as a roller fuzz. So there might be some kind of reunion in the summer too. Anyway, Saturday, November the 4th, starting at 2 o'clock at the Coliseum. Lots of good things happening.
Thank you. So, no other questions. Then we have 2 reports the department has, and the first one has to do with the 2016 bridge inspections, and I don't know if you want to, we'll just take questions and you can probably respond to them. Amanda, that's fine. I know Councillor Grace had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, my question is specifically about the Saugeen River Bridge, and Council may remember that back in April of 2015 we had a report from the then Public Works Director about the condition of the Saugeen River Bridge, and the report said, staff anticipates, this is a quote, a major rehabilitation of this bridge will be required in approximately 10 years. The timeline and cost will be dependent on subsequent biannual bridge inspections. So I have already talked to Amanda about this, but I think it would be interesting to the public to ask her to comment further on the Connecting Link funding application, and maybe any further comments about the 2015 staff assessment.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I also had the opportunity to speak to past individuals from Public Works this afternoon just to get a bit more background on the Saugeen River Bridge. And the idea of large-scale repairs is mostly about money because of the river below it and the span. So it's not that the bridge is in poor repair and will need major overhauling. It's that because you can't work in the water, and if you do, you need a barge. And if you need a barge, then you need a special barge because of the rate the river flows. So any amount of work on the underside of that bridge is costly. That's why the words major were used for the Saugeen River Bridge. When it comes to the Connecting Links funding, that funding is a lot less than it used to be, but they have opened the definitions of what we can apply for. So routine maintenance we're not allowed to apply for, but they're considering that street sweeping and snow clearing. So actual repairs and studies about repairs on the bridge are now applicable. Plus they're allowing widening of the bridges or the approaches to it to be included in that funding. So we're going to look at funding for the detailed inspection of the piers and the repairs that are in this report as well, and look at funding for the bike lane widening approach at Clarendon as well.
Any further questions on the bridge report? One other then, there's another report there that has to do with the transportation master plan and report, a pretty lengthy plan. Anybody have any questions on it? Councillor Minaj.
Mr. Mayor, I had two, and one would be that there's a series of it speaks to open public meetings as well. I wondered if there would be an opportunity specifically for members of council to address the consultant group when they put this transportation master plan together. That's one question. And there's a Schedule B that talks about all of the collector roads and arterial roads and potential bypass roads. And I would like to know if we could speak to the fact whether those, how would we address those roads if they're not meeting the requirements, or it should be changed to other roads. And I brought that up before, in particular because Wellington Street is acting as a collector road in Port Elgin and not Arlington. Arlington is designed to be the collector road, but it's not functioning as a full-blown collector road. And I think we've had this discussion before, but I wanted to know if this plan will review the Schedule B to discuss those items.
I think Amanda can mention that, but I think anybody would, if you're going to follow the municipal class EA, anybody will have an opportunity to speak to any issue in the plan. So, but you can probably elaborate on it better than I can.
Sure. So through you, Mr. Mayor, my intent with the EA would be to have the first session with everybody. Welcome to the public meeting. If from that it looks like a focus group is a good way to go, then we can do that. Through the Class EA process, we also have the ability to go and meet with certain residents. So we could have a specific meeting with the Southampton Residents Association if we wanted, with the Port Elgin BIA, with those, so that there's smaller focused discussions where we limit one or two topics. If we wanted to have council as one of those small meetings, we could easily do that. We would do that after that first meeting and before the second meeting is more of the information gathering piece.
The Class EA process has lots of opportunity for input from anybody. So as you go through it, but I like your suggestion about having Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering, so coming out of this, once we've completed the transportation master plan, and through you to the Director of Public Works, I guess, is it the our expectation that there will then follow a comprehensive review of the traffic bylaw, coming out of whatever recommendations or whatever it comes forward in the transportation master plan? It's been 10 years, it will have been 10 years since we passed the traffic bylaw, which is a fairly lengthy period of time without a review, and there's a number of things in that bylaw that I see that may be a good potential to change. And so I just wonder if that's something we anticipate following on this, to see a comprehensive review of the bylaw.
Through you, I do see that because if this was to change the parking or stop signs or streetlights, those would have to be done. And you're right, it's been a long time since a comprehensive, so I would see that this would lead to that. It may also lead to our capital forecasting for projects and into that decision-making analysis for the risk and the reward of each street. So collector roads may weigh heavier than local roads on different aspects of that asset management plan and capital forecasting. We'll have to look at the recommendations as they come out and then decide how to.
Councillor Minhaj.
Quick follow-up then. So we've had this discussion, Amanda, thank you. It talks about the potential for a truck bypass, and I think I said to you at some point an alternate transportation route around our community, and the Schedule B has two that are very tight inside the community, and I offered one that is further removed from the community, but that's not the point. The point I would like to make is there's probably a lot of county and provincial requirements to enter into any kind of major bypass structure or system. And if we're going to enter into that agreement, will this outline what those phases of agreements and how we would pursue it and how many years it will take to, because I distinctly remember the official plan speaking to the fact that I think 20 years ago it said that within 25 years we'd have gridlock in our community if we didn't have a bypass. And we're now experiencing a number of intersections and a number of internal traffic issues, especially in the summer months, that are pushing us to that. So this EA, I would assume, is going to tell us as well, yes or no, we're concerned about gridlock, and if we are, this is how you would alleviate it, and this is how long it will take, and this is the process you should follow. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. That is when it comes to gridlock, yes, it'll decide that what level of service we're at getting through the town through the summer months. I don't know if it will step by step walk you through how to do a bypass route, because I don't know what the preferred alternative is going to come out as. It could come out as no bypass. It could come out as a constructed bypass over the river. It could come out as existing streets. If it's existing streets that are county roads, then I don't know how we would need an agreement, because county roads are built to pass traffic as well. It would just be signage, I guess, on within their corridor. So I can't say that it will step through the process once the preferred alternative is picked. When that happens, it has to go through a separate Schedule B, Class EA as a minimum to move that forward then, and then that has additional public consultation as well.
Okay, no further questions. Take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Madison, Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.